The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Ambassador Tilvran looked at the empty seats where representatives from 12 worlds once sat. Those worlds were gone now, consumed by the Vectar swarm. The insect-like aliens had appeared 3 months ago and had been unstoppable ever since. Tilvran's hands shook as he reviewed the latest battle reports. Another fleet destroyed. Another billion lives lost. The Council had tried everything. They sent their best warriors, their strongest ships, their smartest generals. Nothing worked. The Vectar just kept coming, wave after wave, like a plague of locusts eating everything in their path. A young analyst named Quintess approached him nervously. She carried a datapad with information marked in red. Red meant danger. Red meant forbidden. Ambassador, I found something, she said quietly. There is one option we have not tried. Tilvran looked at the datapad. The file was labeled Quarantine World, Extreme Hazard Classification. He had heard rumors about such worlds, but had never seen one marked with this many warnings. The planet was called Earth, and it was listed as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating possible. What lives there? He asked. They call themselves humans, Quintess replied. The planet should not support intelligent life. The gravity is too strong. The weather is too extreme. There are poisons in the air and water, diseases that kill in days, predators everywhere. But somehow they survived. They became the dominant species. Tilvran read through the file with growing horror. Earth rotated around a yellow star that bombarded the surface with radiation. The planet had violent weather systems called hurricanes and earthquakes that could destroy cities. The temperatures ranged from freezing cold to burning hot. Most shocking of all, 70% of the planet was covered in water that could drown any land-based creature. Why was this world quarantined? He asked. The early surveys said humans were too dangerous for contact. They fight each other constantly. They have weapons that can destroy entire cities. They test themselves against their own planet just to see if they can survive. The Council decided to leave them alone. Tilvran looked at the images of humans. They looked similar to some Council species, but there were differences. Their eyes faced forward like predators. Their bodies were thick with muscle. The file noted they could run for hours without stopping, heal from terrible wounds, and survive in conditions that would kill most Council members. We need warriors, Tilvran said slowly. These humans, they might be our last chance. The decision was made. Against the protests of many Council members, Tilvran sent a message to Earth. He explained the situation and asked for help. He did not know what to expect. He hoped the humans would send negotiators first, maybe a small ship to study the situation. He was wrong. 3 days later, a human ship appeared at Council Station Zenith. It was enormous, bigger than most Council warships. The metal hull was dark gray and covered in armor plating. Strange weapons were mounted on every surface. The ship looked like it was built for war, not exploration. The humans requested permission to dock. Tilvran granted it immediately. He went to the docking bay with a security team, not sure what to expect. When the airlock opened, he got his first look at the Deathworlders. Captain Yunsik Kong stepped out first. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a dark blue uniform with military insignia. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, taking in everything around him. Behind him came Commander Ji-Won Park, a woman with the same alert expression, and Dr. Yoonji Choi, who carried scanning equipment. Ambassador Tilvran, Captain Kang said. His voice was deep and steady. I am Captain Kang of the United Nations Space Command. We received your distress call. Tilvran noticed how the humans moved. They walked with confidence in the station's light gravity, which should have been difficult for species from a heavy gravity world. Their bodies adapted instantly. He also noticed they were not wearing protective suits. The station's atmosphere was thinner than Earth's, but they breathed it easily. Thank you for coming, Tilvran said. We did not expect such a quick response. When someone asks for help, we answer, Commander Park said simply. They moved to a briefing room where Tilvran showed them everything. Maps of lost worlds, videos of Vectar attacks, statistics of casualties. The humans watched in silence, their faces growing harder with each image. Dr. Choi asked questions about Vectar biology. She wanted to know how they communicated, how they organized, what they ate. Commander Park asked about Vectar tactics and ship designs. Captain Kang said nothing. Just watched and listened. When the briefing ended, Tilvern spoke honestly. We understand if you cannot help. This enemy has defeated every species in the Council. They are too strong, too many. We are facing extinction. Captain Kang stood up slowly. He walked to the star map and studied the Vectar-controlled systems. Then he turned back to Tilvern. Ambassador, you asked for help. Earth is sending the Third Fleet. 47 warships, 12,000 marines, and support vessels. Admiral Tae-ho Shin will command. We will arrive in the Helios sector in 5 days. Tilvern could not believe what he was hearing. A whole fleet? But you do not know us. Why would you risk so much? For the first time, Captain Kang smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator seeing prey. Because that is what we do, he said. Earth taught us many things. We learned to survive where nothing else could. We learned to adapt and overcome. We learned that when something threatens us, we do not run. We fight. Your enemy thinks they are apex predators. They are about to learn what a real predator looks like. The meeting ended shortly after. As the humans returned to their ship, Tilvern felt something he had not felt in months. Hope, but also fear. He had asked Deathworlders for help, and they had answered with fury. He wondered if the galaxy was ready for what was coming. On their ship, Captain Kang sent a message back to Earth. First contact successful. Council is desperate. Enemy is numerous but follows predictable patterns. Recommend full deployment. This fight is winnable. Commander Park looked at him. Do you really think we can win? Kang nodded. The Vectar have never fought anyone who fights back with real violence. The Council species are peaceful. They do not understand total war. But we do. Earth prepared us for this. Dr. Choi was already analyzing Vectar biology samples the Council had provided. These creatures are efficient killers, but they follow hive instincts. They expect prey to run. We need to show them what happens when prey becomes predator. The human ship departed Council Station Zenith, leaving behind aliens who did not yet understand what they had unleashed. The message went across all human military channels. Earth was going to war. And this time, they were not fighting each other. They were fighting for a galaxy that had once feared them. The Vectar swarm had no idea what was coming. They had conquered 12 worlds and thought they were invincible. They were about to meet humanity, and humanity had learned long ago that survival meant being more dangerous than anything that hunted you. The Third Fleet arrived in the Helios sector exactly on schedule. Admiral Tae-ho Shin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UNSC Indomitable, and watched as 47 human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Around him, Council observer ships waited nervously. The observers had expected a small force, maybe 10 ships at most. What they got was an armada. Each human vessel was different from anything in the Council fleet. Where Council ships were sleek and elegant, human ships were brutal and functional. Thick armor covered every surface. Weapon systems bristled from every angle. These were not exploration vessels. These were weapons of war. Admiral Shin was a calm man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had fought in 3 major conflicts on Earth and had never lost a battle. He looked at the tactical display showing Vectar positions in nearby systems. There were hundreds of enemy ships. The Council observers were clearly worried. Admiral, the Council is requesting we hold position and plan our approach, Commander Park reported. She was the fleet's tactical officer, known for her brilliant strategies. Denied, Admiral Shin said simply. We did not come here to wait. Send the message to all ships. We advance immediately. The Council observers were shocked. One of them, a being named Felmoth, activated the communication channel. Admiral Shin, please reconsider. Council doctrine requires extensive planning before engagement. The Vectar outnumber you 3-1. Admiral Shin turned to look at the alien through the view screen. Felmoth, I appreciate your concern, but humans learned a long time ago that hesitation kills. We will engage the enemy now. The Third Fleet moved forward as one unit, The council observers followed at a safe distance, convinced they were about to witness a massacre. They did not understand human military thinking. Everything about it was different from galactic norms. On the UNSC Indomitable, engineer Bora Han was running final checks on the weapon systems. She was young but brilliant, known for pushing equipment beyond safe limits. She looked at the power readings and smiled. The council used energy shields and beam weapons. Humans used something the galaxy had abandoned thousands of years ago: kinetic weapons, missiles, and nuclear warheads. "All systems ready, Admiral," she reported. "Railguns charged, missile batteries loaded, point defense active." "Good," Admiral Shin replied. "Remember, the first rule of human warfare: hit hard, hit fast, do not stop." In the Marine bays below, Lieutenant Sang-Min Lee was briefing his platoon. They were the best soldiers Earth had to offer, trained since childhood in combat that would horrify most civilized species. Lee was a veteran of the Mars conflicts, known for aggressive tactics and perfect execution. "Listen up," he said to his Marines. "The Vectar like to board enemy ships. They think overwhelming numbers win fights. They are about to learn they are wrong. If they breach our hull, we make them regret it. Every corridor is a kill zone. Every bulkhead is a fortress. Show them what human Marines do to invaders." The Marines checked their weapons: assault rifles, shotguns, plasma cutters, explosives. They wore heavy armor that could survive in vacuum. Most council species could not fight in such conditions. Humans trained for it. On the bridge, the tactical display lit up with red markers. A Vectar patrol swarm had detected the human fleet. 200 bioships were heading their way. The council observers immediately sent warnings to retreat. Admiral Shin ignored them. "All ships, combat formation Delta. Lock targets and prepare to fire on my command." The human ships moved into a pattern the council had never seen. Instead of spreading out for defense, they concentrated their formation. Instead of preparing shields, they angled their armor to deflect incoming fire. Instead of running, they accelerated toward the enemy. "They are charging directly into the swarm," Felmoth said in horror. "This is suicide." Commander Park heard him through the open channel. "No, this is human tactics. We learned on Earth that the best defense is overwhelming offense." The two fleets met in a storm of fire. Vectar bioships launched acidic projectiles and tried to close for boarding actions. Human ships responded with railgun fire that punched through bioship hulls like paper. Missiles streaked through space, dozens at a time, overwhelming Vectar point defenses. The council observers watched in shock as the battle unfolded. Human ships did not try to avoid damage. They took hits and kept firing. When Vectar warriors managed to breach hulls, they found armored corridors and Marine fire teams waiting. The close combat was brutal and short. Lieutenant Lee's platoon was in one of those breached corridors. The Vectar came through in a rush, expecting to overwhelm the defenders with numbers. Instead, they ran into prepared positions. Marines fired from cover, using tactics perfected in urban combat on Earth. Grenades channeled the enemy into kill zones. Heavy weapons cut them down in waves. "Keep firing," Lee shouted. "Do not let them establish a foothold." A Vectar warrior broke through and charged at Lee. He sidestepped the attack and shot it at point-blank range. Another came from the side. He blocked with his armored forearm and hit it with a combat knife. The corridor was chaos, but the Marines held. On the bridge, Engineer Han noticed something. "Admiral, the Vectar are trying to concentrate on our port side. Permission to overcharge the railguns?" "How far over safety limits?" Admiral Shin asked calmly. 40%, sir." "Do it." Han rerouted power from non-essential systems. The railguns charged beyond their design specifications. Heat warnings flashed red across her console. She ignored them. When the weapons fired, the sustained barrage was devastating. 3 Vectar cruisers broke apart under the assault. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, the Vectar swarm was destroyed. 200 bioships reduced to debris. The human fleet had taken damage, but every ship was still operational. Casualties were at 40%, but those were acceptable numbers by human standards. The council observers were silent for a long time. Finally, Felmoth spoke. How? How is this possible? You were outnumbered. You took terrible casualties. But you won. Commander Park responded simply. Because we are from Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every day. We learned that survival means being more dangerous than anything that threatens us. The Vectar are strong, but they have never fought a species that evolved as apex predators. Admiral Shin sent a fleet-wide message. Good work. Repair crews have 4 hours. Then we advance to the next system. We will not stop until we reach their homeworld. Dr. Choi was analyzing captured Vectar remains in the ship's lab. She had made an important discovery. Admiral, I have been studying their biology. These creatures are hive-minded. They are excellent at following instincts but poor at adapting. They expect prey to run. When something fights back aggressively, they do not know how to respond. That is exactly what we need to exploit, Admiral Shin said. Earth prepared us to fight thinking enemies. These creatures follow patterns. We will use that against them. The human fleet began repairs. Marines cleared the breached sections. Engineers patched hull damage. The Council observers watched in amazement as humans worked in conditions that would kill most species. They worked in vacuum. They worked in extreme heat from damaged systems. They worked through injuries that should have forced them to stop. A message was sent to all Council forces. The humans had engaged the enemy and won. The impossible had happened. The Vectar could be beaten. Hope spread through the galaxy for the first time in months. But the humans were not celebrating. They were preparing for the next battle. Admiral Shin looked at the star charts showing Vectar territory. His expression was grim and determined. They thought they were the apex predators of this galaxy, he said quietly. They are about to learn what real predators look like. The Third Fleet moved deeper into hostile territory, leaving behind a debris field and a message. Humanity had arrived, and they brought fury with them. The Third Fleet had been pushing through Vectar territory for 6 days. They had fought 3 more battles, each one a brutal display of human warfare. The Council observers who followed were learning that Earth's people did not understand the concept of proportional response. When attacked, humans responded with overwhelming violence. Admiral Shin stood on the bridge studying the next target. The Kelv system was heavily fortified. Intelligence reports showed at least 500 Vectar bioships defending it. The system contained 3 colonized worlds that the Vectar had conquered. Millions of Council citizens were trapped there, being used as food sources for the hive. Admiral, Council Command is suggesting we bypass this system, Commander Park reported. They say the defenses are too strong. Bypass? Admiral Shin's voice was cold. There are civilians down there. We do not leave people behind. That is what I told them, sir. The plan was simple and terrifying. The fleet would jump directly into the middle of the system, ignoring standard tactics of approaching from the edge. They would hit the Vectar so hard and fast that the enemy would not have time to organize a proper defense. Engineer Han was worried. Admiral, jumping into the middle of a gravity well is dangerous. If the calculations are off by even a small amount, we could emerge inside a planet. Your calculations are never off, Admiral Shin said with complete confidence. Proceed. The fleet jumped. For a moment, there was nothing but the strange feeling of hyperspace. Then they emerged right in the heart of the Kelv system, less than 1,000,000 kilometers from the main Vectar battle station. The enemy was caught completely off guard. Human doctrine called it a thunderstrike. Hit the enemy before they even know you are there. The first volley of railgun fire destroyed 20 bioships before the Vectar could react. But the Vectar had numbers on their side. Hundreds of bioships converged on the human fleet from all directions. This was exactly what they wanted. In the chaos of close combat, their boarding tactics usually overwhelmed enemies. They had never fought humans before. The UNSC Indomitable became the center of the fiercest fighting. Dozens of Vectar bioships latched onto its hull, burning through armor with acidic secretions. Vectar warriors poured into the breached sections like a flood. Lieutenant Lee's Marine platoon was stationed in Section 7 when the breach alarm sounded. He grabbed his rifle and moved his team into position. They had trained for this exact situation hundreds of times. Remember the rules, he said calmly. Overlapping fields of fire, conserve ammunition, make them come to us. The Vectar warriors came through the breach in a massive wave. They were large, insect-like creatures with razor-sharp claws and armored shells. They made a horrible screeching sound as they charged. Most species would panic at the sight. Lee's Marines opened fire with disciplined bursts. The corridor became a killing zone. Vectar warriors fell by the dozens, but more kept coming. They could not understand why the prey was not running. "Grenade!" Lee shouted. A Marine tossed a frag grenade into the packed mass of aliens. The explosion tore through them, ichor spraying the walls. A Vectar warrior made it through the fire and leaped at Lee. He had been expecting it. He sidestepped and brought his combat knife up, finding the weak point between armor plates. The creature fell. Another came immediately after. He shot it in the head. The fight was brutal and close. Vectar warriors were strong and fast, but Marines were trained in hand-to-hand combat from childhood. Every human soldier knew 50 ways to kill with their bare hands. They used that knowledge now. Sergeant Heejin Yoon was a sniper positioned in an elevated position overlooking the main corridor. She fired with mechanical precision, dropping Vectar warriors with single shots. Her count was at 47 kills and climbing. She did not miss. In the medbay, Dr. Young-Ho Nam was operating on wounded Marines while the battle raged outside. He had 16 casualties so far. In most species, many of these wounds would be fatal, but humans were built different. Redundant organs, dense bones, high pain tolerance. They could survive injuries that would kill other species. "Stay with me, Marine," he said to a soldier with a chest wound. "You are not dying today." On the bridge, Admiral Shin watched the tactical display. The situation looked chaotic, but he had seen worse. Human ships were designed for this kind of brawl. Armored bulkheads contained breaches. Point defense systems kept destroying bioships that tried to attach. And the Marines were doing what they did best. "Engineering, status report," he ordered. Engineer Han's voice came through, slightly strained. "Multiple hull breaches, but all contained. Power is steady. Weapons are at 90% efficiency. We can keep fighting." "Good. All ships, concentrate fire on the battle station. I want it destroyed." The human fleet focused their weapons on the massive Vectar station. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked through space. The Council observers watching from a distance were horrified. Humans still used atomic weapons. It was considered barbaric by galactic standards. But it was effective. The missiles impacted the station's core, and it exploded in a brilliant flash. Thousands of Vectar died instantly. The bioships in the area fell into chaos without central coordination. In Section 7, the tide of Vectar warriors suddenly stopped coming. Lieutenant Lee signaled ceasefire. His Marines lowered their weapons, breathing hard. The corridor was filled with alien bodies. Lee did a quick count. His platoon had held against more than 200 Vectar warriors. They had lost 3 Marines. "Medic," he called. "Get the wounded to the medbay. Everyone else prepare for cleanup." One of his Marines, Private Dae-Jung-Oh, was injured but still standing. Blood ran down his arm from a deep cut. "Lieutenant, are we winning?" Lee checked the tactical feed on his helmet display. The human fleet had destroyed the battle station and half the Vectar bioships. The rest were breaking formation and trying to retreat. "Yeah," he said, "we are winning." The battle lasted another 2 hours. When it ended, the Kelv system was liberated. Of the 500 Vectar bioships, fewer than 50 escaped. The human fleet had taken heavy damage, but not a single ship was lost. The casualties were significant by Council standards. 1,200 humans had died. Another 3,000 were wounded. But Admiral Shin had expected worse. The Marines had fought in conditions that would have destroyed most military forces. They held every breach. They pushed back every boarding attempt. They proved that in close combat, humans were unmatched. Council rescue ships entered the system to evacuate the surviving civilians from the conquered worlds. They found humans already on the ground, having dropped Marine units to secure the areas and provide medical aid. The civilians were amazed. These fearsome warriors were treating them with kindness and care. One elderly Council citizen asked Lieutenant Lee why humans would risk so much for people they did not know. "Because it is the right thing to do," Lee answered simply. Where we come from, you protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is just how we are. The message was sent back to Council Space. The Kelv system was free. 3 worlds were saved. The impossible was happening. Humanity was pushing the Vectar back. But Admiral Shin was not satisfied. He looked at the star charts showing the Vectar homeworld, deep in enemy territory. That was where the Queen lived. That was where the hive mind originated. That was where this war would be won or lost. "How long until the fleet is ready to move?" he asked Commander Park. "We need at least 3 days for full repairs, Admiral." "You have 2 days. We cannot give them time to prepare. We hit them while they are still reeling from these losses." Dr. Choi entered the bridge with new information. "Admiral, I have been analyzing the Vectar command structure. The Queen coordinates everything. If we can reach her and eliminate the Queen, the entire swarm will collapse." Admiral Shin nodded slowly. "Then that is our target. We go straight for their homeworld. We end this war." Commander Park looked worried. "Sir, that will mean going deep into their territory. We will be surrounded. No retreat possible." "Good," Admiral Shin said. "Retreat was never part of the plan. We are humans. We do not run from fights. We end them." Engineer Han was already calculating the jump coordinates. "Vectar Prime is heavily defended. We will be fighting thousands of bioships. Then we bring more firepower," Admiral Shin replied. "Send a message to Earth. Request the 4th and 5th fleets. If we are going to kill a hive, we do it right." The 3rd Fleet began repairs and resupply operations. Marines cleared the breached sections and honored their dead. Engineers patched hulls and recharged weapons. Medical teams treated the wounded. Every human knew what was coming next. They were going to attack the heart of the enemy empire. They were going to face impossible odds. They were going to do what humans had always done when facing extinction. They were going to fight. Vectar Prime hung in space like a dark jewel. The planet was covered in hive structures that stretched across entire continents. Orbital sensors showed millions of Vectar warriors moving across the surface. In orbit, over 3,000 bioships waited. This was the heart of the swarm. This was where the Queen lived. Admiral Shin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now joined by the 4th and 5th fleets. 120 human warships faced the Vectar homeworld. The Council had begged him not to do this. They said it was suicide. They said even humanity could not win this fight. He disagreed. "All ships, this is Admiral Shin. Today, we do something that has never been done before. We attack a fully defended hive world. The odds are against us. The enemy outnumbers us 10 to 1. But we are humans. We do not care about odds. We care about winning. All ships, begin the assault." The human fleet charged forward. Thousands of Vectar bioships rose to meet them. The space around Vectar Prime erupted into the largest battle the galaxy had seen in centuries. Commander Park coordinated the fleet movements with perfect precision. She had studied every battle in human history, from ancient Earth to modern space combat. She knew that when facing superior numbers, you attacked in waves, concentrated force on weak points, and never gave the enemy time to organize. "Wave 1, attack their left flank," she ordered. "Wave 2, hold in reserve. Wave 3, prepare for orbital bombardment." The human ships moved like parts of a single organism. They used tactics the Vectar could not predict because no other species fought this way. When bioships tried to surround them, human ships formed defensive spheres with overlapping point defense. When Vectar warriors tried boarding actions, they found sealed bulkheads and marine kill teams. Engineer Han was pushing every system beyond safe limits. The power readings on her console were all in the red zone. She did not care. They had one chance to win this fight, and she would make sure the weapons kept firing. "Railguns at 150% power," she reported. "Heat levels critical. I can give you 5 more minutes before the barrels melt." "5 minutes is all we need," Admiral Shin replied. But the real battle was about to begin on the surface. While the fleet fought in orbit, dropships were launching from the carrier groups. Thousands of Marines were preparing for the most dangerous mission in human military history. a ground assault on a hive world. Lieutenant Lee stood in the troop bay of his dropship with 40 Marines. They were wearing heavy assault armor designed for hostile environments. Vector Prime's atmosphere was toxic to most life. The temperature on the surface was over 60 degrees Celsius. The air pressure was crushing. For humans, it was just another Tuesday. "Listen up," Lee said to his platoon. "We have one mission. Get to the hive core and kill the queen. Dr. Choi says the queen coordinates the entire swarm. We kill her, and this war ends. Simple, right?" The Marines laughed. Nothing about this was simple. They were about to drop into hell itself. But that was what they signed up for. That was what humans did. They went places no one else could go and did things no one else could do. Sergeant Yoon checked her sniper rifle one last time. She had requested explosive rounds for this mission. Standard ammunition might not penetrate Vector warrior armor at range. She was not taking chances. The dropship pilot, Nari Song, was one of the best in the fleet. She had flown through combat zones that killed other pilots. Today, she would fly through hell. Her voice came through the comm system. 30 seconds to landing zone. It is going to be rough. Vector warriors are everywhere down there. I will get you on the ground, but after that, you are on your own. That is all we need, Lee replied. The dropship hit the atmosphere of Vector Prime at high speed. Anti-air fire filled the sky. Bioships tried to intercept them. Human fighters provided cover, drawing enemy fire away from the troop carriers. It was chaos. It was beautiful. Pilot Song dodged incoming fire with skill that seemed impossible. The dropship shook as explosions rocked it, but she kept flying. She had made a promise to get these Marines to the ground alive. She would keep that promise or die trying. The dropship landed hard in a cleared area. The rear ramp dropped, and Lee's platoon charged out into the toxic atmosphere. They were immediately under fire. Vector warriors were everywhere, thousands of them, all converging on the landing zone. "Establish a perimeter," Lee shouted. "Heavy weapons, suppressing fire." The Marines moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this exact scenario. Heavy gunners set up positions and began firing into the mass of Vector warriors. Riflemen took cover behind rocks and debris. Snipers found elevated positions. Sergeant Yoon found a good spot on top of a wrecked structure. She began firing, each shot dropping a Vector warrior. Her count was climbing fast. 10 kills, 20, 30. She did not miss. She never missed. More dropships landed, bringing reinforcements. Within an hour, 5,000 Marines were on the ground, holding a beachhead against impossible odds. The Vector threw everything at them. Wave after wave of warriors charged the human positions. The Marines held. Dr. Nam set up a field hospital in a protected area. Wounded Marines were already coming in. Burns from acid spray. Cuts from Vector claws. Broken bones from close combat. He worked with steady hands, treating injuries that would kill most species. His patients were tough. They could survive this. "I need more plasma here," he shouted to a medic. A Marine had lost an arm. Most species would die from shock. Humans could survive it with proper treatment. He would save this soldier. The push toward the hive core began. Marines advanced in small teams, clearing hive tunnels meter by meter. The Vector fought back with desperate fury. They knew the humans were coming for their queen. They knew this was the end. Lieutenant Lee's platoon was at the front of the advance. The tunnels were dark and filled with Vector warriors. It was exactly the kind of environment humans excelled in. Close combat. No room to maneuver. Just violence and will. Private O was fighting beside Lee when a Vector warrior burst from a side tunnel. It was massive, larger than the others. A guardian breed. O did not hesitate. He charged it with his combat knife, stabbing for the weak points Dr. Choi had identified. The guardian's claw caught him across the chest. His armor cracked. Blood poured out. But O kept fighting. He got the knife into the creature's brain and twisted. It fell dead. "Medic!" Lee shouted. But he could see the wound was bad. Too bad. O knew it too. He looked at Lee and smiled through the pain. Get to the Queen, sir. Finish this. Stay with us, oh, that is an order. Sorry, sir. I think I will sit this one out. O's eyes closed. He stopped breathing. Lee felt rage burn through him. O was a good Marine, a good man. He had died so the mission could continue. Lee would not let that death be meaningless. Keep moving, he ordered his platoon. We are almost there. The advance continued deeper into the hive. Marines used explosives to collapse tunnels behind them, preventing the Vectar from surrounding them. They used flamethrowers to clear side passages. They used grenades to break through fortified positions. After 30 kilometers of brutal fighting, they reached a massive chamber, the Hive Core. In the center, surrounded by elite Guardian warriors, was the Queen. She was enormous, 3 times the size of a normal Vectar. Her body pulsed with bioluminescence as she coordinated the swarm across the planet. Lee's platoon was down to 20 Marines. They were wounded, exhausted, and low on ammunition. But they had made it. They had reached the target. Everyone, concentrate fire on the Queen, Lee ordered. Hit her with everything we have. The Guardians charged. The Marines opened fire. It was the most brutal fight of the entire war. Guardians were faster and stronger than normal warriors. They killed 3 Marines in the first rush. But humans did not break. They never broke. Sergeant Yoon had 1 explosive round left. She waited for the perfect shot. The Queen turned, exposing a weak spot in her armor. Yoon took the shot. The round hit exactly where it needed to. The explosion tore through the Queen's body. The Queen screamed, a horrible sound that echoed through the hive. Then she fell, dead. The effect was immediate. Across the entire planet, Vectar warriors stopped fighting. Without the Queen's coordination, they became confused and disorganized. In orbit, the bioships lost formation. The hive mind was broken. Admiral Shin saw it on the tactical display. The enemy was collapsing. After weeks of brutal fighting, they had won. All ships, finish them, he ordered. Do not let any escape. The human fleet moved through the orbital defenses like a storm, destroying every bioship. On the ground, Marines cleared out the remaining Vectar warriors. By the end of the day, Vectar Prime was silent. The swarm was dead. The silence after the battle was strange. For weeks, the sounds of war had filled every moment. Explosions, gunfire, the screech of Vectar warriors, the shouting of Marines. Now there was only quiet. The kind of quiet that came after a storm had passed. Lieutenant Lee sat on a piece of rubble in the hive core chamber, surrounded by his surviving Marines. They had started with 40 in the platoon. Now there were 17. Private O's body lay covered with a thermal blanket nearby. Lee would make sure every fallen Marine made it home to Earth. That was the promise. No one gets left behind. Sergeant Yoon approached and sat down beside him. Her armor was covered in ichor and scorch marks. She had stopped counting her kills after 200. It did not matter anymore. We did it, she said quietly. We actually did it. Yeah, Lee replied. We did. The cost had been high. 5,000 Marines had landed on Vectar Prime. Only 3,000 were still alive. 2,000 had died in the tunnels, in the open ground fighting, in the desperate push to reach the Queen. Each one had been a person with a life, with people who loved them back on Earth. Each one had given everything so the galaxy could be free. In orbit, Admiral Shin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the casualty reports. The numbers were brutal. 7,000 humans dead. Another 12,000 wounded, 23 ships heavily damaged. By Council standards, it was a disaster. By human standards, it was a victory. A costly one, but a victory nonetheless. Commander Park stood beside him. She looked tired. They all did. The last Vectar bioship has been destroyed. The system is secure. We won, Admiral. At what cost? He asked quietly. The cost of freedom, she replied. The same cost humans have always paid. Messages were already coming in from across Council space. The news of the swarm's defeat was spreading like wildfire. 12 systems that had been conquered were now free. Billions of lives had been saved. The impossible had happened because humans had made it happen. Engineer Han was in the damaged sections of the ship, supervising repairs. She moved slowly, exhausted from weeks of pushing every system beyond its limits. But the Indomitable was still flying. That was what mattered. The ship had taken more punishment than any council vessel could survive. But it was built by humans, and humans built things to last. A young engineer approached her. "Ma'am, the council observers are asking how we could survive this much damage. They want to know our secret." Han laughed tiredly. "Tell them the secret is simple. We build our ships the same way we build everything. Strong enough to survive Earth. If it can survive Earth, it can survive anything." On the surface, Dr. Nam was still treating wounded Marines. He had been working for 36 hours straight without rest. His hands were steady despite the exhaustion. A council medical team had arrived to help, but they were shocked by human medicine. "You treat injuries in the field that we would consider fatal," one council doctor said. "How is this possible?" "Because humans do not give up easily," Nam replied. "Our bodies are built to survive trauma. Our will is built to overcome pain. We learned on Earth that death is not decided by injury alone. It is decided by whether you keep fighting." The council rescue ships were arriving now, along with media vessels. Everyone wanted to see the Deathworlders who had done the impossible. Camera drones captured images of human Marines, battered and bloodied, but standing tall. They captured images of damaged ships still flying. They captured images of the massive hive world, now silent and dead. Ambassador Tilvern arrived on the Indomitable to speak with Admiral Shin. The alien looked at the human admiral with a mixture of awe and fear. In 3 weeks, humanity had accomplished what the Council could not do in 3 months. They had not just stopped the swarm, they had destroyed it completely. "Admiral Shin, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you. You saved us all." Admiral Shin turned to face him. His expression was neutral. "We did what needed to be done, that is all." "But how?" Tilvern asked. "How can you fight with such fury? How can you take such casualties and keep advancing? How can you be so brutal?" Admiral Shin was quiet for a moment. Then he walked to the viewport and looked out at Vector Prime below. The dead hive world was a monument to human determination. "You asked us for help because you had no other choice," he said. "You called on Deathworlders because you were desperate, but I do not think you understood what that meant. You see us as violent and aggressive. You are right. We are. But do you know why?" Tilvern shook his head. "Because Earth made us this way," Admiral Shin continued. "Our planet tried to kill us every single day. The weather, the predators, the diseases, the other humans. We survived by becoming more dangerous than anything that hunted us. We learned that hesitation means death. We learned that mercy is earned, not given. We learned that when something threatens you, you do not negotiate. You do not retreat. You destroy it completely so it never threatens you again." "But surely there is more to humanity than violence," Tilvern said. Admiral Shin smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Of course there is. We love, we create. We dream of peace. But we know that peace is not a gift from the universe. It is something you take and defend with everything you have. The galaxy wanted peace. We gave it to you. But we gave it to you the only way we know how. Through fury." The conversation spread through council networks. Humans had won the war, but now the council had to decide what to do with these dangerous allies. Some argued that Earth should remain isolated. Others argued that humanity should be welcomed. The debate ended when the casualty reports became public. 7,000 humans had died fighting for species they had never met. They had asked for nothing in return. They had simply done what they thought was right. That changed everything. Captain Kang was on the surface, standing at a memorial site where the fallen Marines were honored. Each name was carved into stone. Each person was remembered. Thousands of council citizens had come to pay their respects. They brought flowers and gifts. They cried for the humans who had died to save them. One young council child approached Kang. "Why did they fight for us? We are not human." Kang knelt down to look at the child. "Because when we see someone who needs help, we help them. That is what humans do. It does not matter if you are from Earth or from across the galaxy. If you need us, we will come. That is our promise. The child hugged him. Kang held the small alien gently, feeling the weight of responsibility. Humanity had become the protector of the galaxy. It was a role they had not asked for, but it was a role they would fulfill. Commander Park was working on the after-action reports when Dr. Choi entered. The scientist looked thoughtful. "Commander, I have been thinking about what we learned," Choi said. "The Vectar were apex predators in their own system. They conquered everyone around them. Then they met us, and we showed them what real apex predators look like." "That sounds almost cruel," Park replied. "Maybe, but it is also the truth. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that they forgot what war really is. We reminded them. And now they know. If you want humanity's help, we will give it freely. But if you become our enemy, we will show you the same fury we showed the Vectar." The Third Fleet prepared to return to Earth. Repairs were completed. Wounded were stabilized, the dead were honored. It was time to go home. Admiral Shin gave one final order before they left. "Send a message to all council members. Tell them this. Earth is now part of the galactic community. We will help those who ask. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. But we will not tolerate aggression. We will not accept conquest. And if anyone threatens peace, they will face humanity's full fury. Make sure they understand." The message was sent. It spread across every system in council space. Some species were relieved, some were terrified, all of them understood. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Lieutenant Lee stood at the viewport of the transport ship, watching Vectar Prime fade into the distance. He thought about Private O and all the Marines who had not made it home. He thought about the cost of victory. He thought about what came next. Beside him, Sergeant Yoon spoke softly. "Do you think it was worth it? All those deaths?" Lee did not answer immediately. He thought about the rescued civilians, the freed worlds, the children who would grow up without fear of the swarm. Finally, he nodded. "Yes, it was worth it. Because that is what we do. We sacrifice so others can live. We fight so others can have peace. We give our lives so the galaxy can have a future. That is what it means to be human." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading home to Earth. Behind them, they left a galaxy changed forever. The Vectar swarm was destroyed. Billions of lives were saved. And humanity had proven something that would echo through history. When you call on Deathworlders for help, they do not bring diplomacy. They do not bring caution. They bring a fleet of fury, and they bring victory. The story of the Third Fleet became legend. Songs were written. Monuments were built. The names of the fallen were remembered across 1,000 worlds. And whenever the galaxy faced darkness, they knew who to call. They would call the humans. The Deathworlders who turned fury into salvation. The apex predators who chose to protect instead of conquer. The species that proved that the strongest warriors could also be the greatest heroes. Earth had joined the galactic community, and the galaxy was safer for it.